I hope a third time will work. It's a third time charm. So I hope the third time will actually work and we can continue. Since third time is a charm, right? So I hope that works. So you'll probably see me on another line. See if that will work. I'm trying to connect from the sisters. Yeah, Josephine. She says she was using her laptop, so we're trying to see if she uses her phone, and that's the line that will work out better. Aki, how are you? It's been a hard week, eh? Reverend Ampia, I have the questions. I've seen the questions here, so I would ask Showbiz. I've seen your questions as well. Josephine, I've seen the questions. So let her use her phone and let's see if that works better for us. Okay. I'm just hopeful that third time charm will work for us. Okay. Yes, so Doc is on. Showbiz, that's why you should have a third baby. Always seem to work. So Doc is going to come on, and because we've wasted quite some time. What's the time now? It's 1 o'clock. We've wasted about, we've not wasted, but we've gone through 1 hour of Mrs. Lai. How are you too? I'm trying to, Doc is adding, so now we will be on because we've gone through 1 hour of this back and forth. So we'll do our questions quickly and then we can take it from there. Okay. I'm adding here. I can actually see here on the screen now. So the issue, I'm sure, yeah, she was right. She said it probably is the laptop. So that's Vanessa. How are you too? Um, okay. Let me be you. Let me be. I'm trying to add. So let's see if this time this works. I can actually see on the screen that yes, it's connected. Finally. Dog, good afternoon. This one day we are not wasting time at all. Let me shoot. I know you are very fine. And thank you so much for joining us. So let me shoot straight to our questions. The first one says that who qualifies to adopt in this country?
Anybody above age 21 or 25 who is working and can be a good role model to a child.
Okay. The next question, the adoption, Ivy says, Irama says, the adoption, I was told that the adoption process is very difficult. And at a point, one might even want to give up. How true is this?
We are dealing with human life, and adoption process, I wouldn't say is difficult. I would rather say we need to follow due process, and probably as Ghanaians, most of us do not like following due process. And there are times people go around, very educated, very intelligent people, they go around other places. So by the time they meet the actual officers who are on the adoption schedule, they've seen people, nurses, some different people. And that is why they complain. But if you should come straight and follow the procedures, it works out well.
Okay. Reverend Ampia wants to know what background checks you carry before all this, the adoption and anything takes place.
Probably we should start from here. When you want to do an adoption, per our laws, you have to go to the Department of Social Welfare. Adoption is not done at the district, it's done from the regions to the Central Adoption Authority. So it starts from the region. So when you get to the regional office, you may ask of a regional director, or if there is an adoption office there. There are some regions, due to accommodation problems, you don't have one particular office that is labeled as adoption office, but Accra has one office that is adoption office. So you can just go to the regional director, then the regional director will refer you to the schedule officer for the region.
Okay. And then after that, what happens?
When you are referred, you pick up an application form. So there is a fee, you pay and then pick up the application form. When you pick up the application form, it's a pack, a medical report, then a letter to CID headquarters for criminal clearance. So the police will do their checks and give us a report on you. After that, you are to add some documents, for instance, your birth certificate, evidence of marriage, if you say you are married, evidence of work and earnings. Then we'll need referral letters. I mean, you have at least 2 referees if you are single. If you are 3, we'll need 3 people to write character reference on you. Then when you return the pack with your medical examination report from a qualified medical officer, from the police and all the other documents as I have stated, then we'll review your documents, verify the documents, and an officer is scheduled to visit you at home, interview you, see where you live, and write a report. After the report is an assessment. So there is a recommendation as to whether to place a child with you immediately if a child is available, or give you more training as you may not understand the adoption process. Maybe you've just lost a pregnancy or a child. So at that point, you are not very stable, so may need help. So you may be referred to a psychologist or a qualified social worker who have skills in counseling to counsel you. So after that is done, if your specified child, the child that you want, is available, then we can talk. And even preparing the report, the officer who visits you at home starts discussing the way forward, the pros and cons, what is available, what is not available, to enable you make informed decisions. There are times people pick up the application and they never return the application. Then come back 3-4 years later to say, I picked up an application, but social welfare hasn't done anything. Not until you return the application pack with all the information, the required information, we cannot assess you. And this is a special kind of relationship or building a family. So you need to be active in the process. There are people who pick the application form, then go to sleep, waiting that somebody should pick up a phone and call, somebody should be reminding them. But you know, adoption, before one decides to adopt, the person might have gone through something and then may have specific reasons. For that, you cannot force a child on anybody. But we are there to support you, and you must make yourself available. So after the report is prepared and the recommendation made, when the client comes back, there is a meeting where we discuss the pros and cons, the type of children available. In Ghana, you know, because of our culture, most Ghanaians will prefer fresh babies. Some go to the extent of faking pregnancy so that their friends and relatives will know that they people do not meet professionals in the system. It isn't everybody who works with the Department of Social Welfare who have skills to work on adoption.
Do you look at people and decide what baby or child suits them?
Actually, in the report that is prepared, the assessment, we look at your hobbies, your career, your idea about parenting, then discuss what might work, and your age. There are times you meet a 50-year-old woman or a 50-year couple who tell you they want a baby. And at 50, let's say technically you have about 10 years to work. Although I'm not saying you are going to die at 60 or just after retirement, you cannot take care of a child. But it will be proper and adequate for you to grow up with the child. So the child does not refer to you as a grandparent, but the child should see you as a parent as well. So you just don't place a child with somebody. There's something we call matching. It is a technical process where you match a child needs with the what is available. Yes. So the parent should be able to meet the needs of a child they want to adopt. But there are times that people walk in thinking the child should rather meet their need. It's a two-way traffic, I agree. But the child must be raised to be a normal adult when they grow. So when you come with that, at times we don't even realize it. But the person who is trained, working with you, as they talk to you, gets all this information. And that is where the training comes in.
Okay. Reverend Ampia is asking again, have there been instances where children have been taken from the parents?
Yes, please. Yes, please. There have even been instances. Come again.
What are some of the instances, please?
Well, there are times you place a child with a couple or with an individual. Then along the line, the child's needs are not being met. There are also times that the individual or the couple return the child that they are not prepared to work with a particular child. We've had such instances. And you know, when that happens, it traumatizes the child and the parents. So as much as possible, we try to avoid this. And that is why we take time before placing a child with an applicant.
Okay. Bella is asking, can I go to an orphanage and choose a child I want to adopt and then start the process?
Let me correct this thing. In Ghana, technically, we don't have orphanages. We have residential facilities for children.
Wow.
When you talk, yes, when you talk about an orphanage, The children there should all be orphans, and they should be there with a court order, what we call a care order. We have residential facilities for children. You may be walking around, you find a child loitering about, you move the child to the home, somebody gets up and feel, well, I want to help. So gather a few relatives here and there, and children he or she perceived to be vulnerable, and move them in without any detailed background check from social welfare. Before you admit a child into a residential facility, you have to go through social welfare to do a proper investigation and analysis of the child's situation, and also take a care order from the court before putting a child in your facility. But these things are often ignored in Ghana. So you get to a place and you see children there, you wish to take scientific, compassionate decisions on the children. Then there is no history. Some of them do not even remember when the children were moved to a particular facility. Wow. And if the child has not been cleared, you cannot place the child for adoption. The clearing process starts with a court order where you provide the court with all the background history, a detailed background history of the child. There are times you will even need a police extract of occurrence. Whatever happened, if the child was being abused, the child was found on the street, all that has been done to get the biological family or parents. You know, the home is not the best place for any child. Children kept at the residential facilities are in cold storage, and research has shown that they are behind their peers who are raised within families 3 years. So you realize that even with social welfare policy currently, we are discouraging residential care of children. We are rather putting children, even abandoned children, when we pick them up, and we have a list of foster carers, people who are willing and are capable of taking care of children. We place them with them whilst we go through the police for them to do their checks and investigations, go to court to get a care order. Then if we are not able to find whoever abandoned the child, or if the child cannot return to the family, and we believe that the child adoption will do for the child, then we can place. You just don't get up and place a child. So if you go to a residential facility, what we call the orphanage, and go and identify a child who is somebody's child, who has not been cleared, who is probably there because the mother feels, oh, this person is a philanthropist and has opened a school, as most of our people refer to such place, that, oh, it's a school, the person is helping us and has taken the children. You may go on with the process. At the end of the day, the family will go to court and they'll take the child away from you, or you take care of the child 3-4 years. Along the line, the family will just come up one day and take the child away, and they'll win. Recently, I handled a case. There was a family, there was this young lady who at that time was struggling. So this lady who had fertility issues, the child, they took this child from as early as 7 months, took care of this child, 9 years, then all of a sudden a young man pops up, and this young lady who had told this couple that, oh, I've given the child to you, turns up with the woman, the man that the child's father wants his child. They went to court thinking that, oh, having taken care of the child and formed bonds with the child, the court will give. No, the child was given back to the parents, and they had to even pay for a psychologist to help the child in the transition. Unfortunately, these parents are not even in position to take good care of the child. And I'm not saying being rich equals responsibility. There are very poor people who take very good care of their children. Lying on a mat, if you have a cloth to cover yourself, and at least a pillow, it is a bed. If in the morning a parent can at least give even cassava slices with kontomire, it is balance, it is food. I am not saying giving Milo, Ovaltine, sausage, and whatever is the best. That's not what I'm saying. But this child have been raised in a with particular standards where even the school he attends, but the parents may not be able to afford that. But because they didn't go through social welfare to get good counsel and to help both sides decide what they want for the child, you know, they could have just taken care of this child and fostered the child, knowing that this child is still for the parents. But they thought they were caring for a child for themselves, only for these people to come up.
Okay, so we're trying to. I think there's a little network glitch. Dog's line. It's on such an educative, an eye opener. So we do not have orphanages in Ghana. Today we are being told in Ghana what we establishments, care establishments, they are not orphanages. It's that so Doc, it's
Hello.
an eye. Yes, you've opened our eyes to. I am in shock because then it means that all the little places that are calling themselves orphanages, they are not orphanage. There's nothing like that in this country.
Technically, there's nothing like that. We have residential facilities for children.
Okay, so
they can best be referred to as children's homes.
Okay. Josephine is asking if you want to adopt a child and take them to the US, UK, outside the country, is there a different process for that as well?
Yes, please. If you live outside Ghana, even if you are a Ghanaian and you come back to adopt a relative, it is an inter-country adoption. Then we have foreigners living in Ghana who wish to adopt children they have met in Ghana, or maybe families that they have worked with in Ghana, or just a Ghanaian child. It is possible. That is an international adoption because after the process, the individual or the couple can take the child and relocate outside Ghana. So that is an international adoption. But somebody living outside Ghana, being a Ghanaian or a foreigner, it is an inter-country adoption because at the end of the day, the intention is to take the child across international boundaries to the receiving country. So the process is different, even if you are a Ghanaian.
Does that also take forever? How long does that take?
It doesn't take forever. The issue is that we all need to follow process. If you live outside the country, when you pick up an application form from Ghana and you want to adopt, we'll give you a letter to an accredited adoption agency in your country of residence. So this agency will do what we call a home study, the type of assessment I explained to you earlier. So when we receive the home study report in Ghana, we will review it. You know, there are differences in what we believe in. For instance, somewhere else, two men calling themselves a couple or two women calling themselves a couple is accepted and they can adopt. But under Ghanaian laws, we don't have that and we don't believe in that. So placing a Ghanaian child, even though the other country may say, oh, they are a good couple, they can take care of a child, we may not be willing to place a child with such a couple in Ghana. So after we review, if everything is okay, then we will also write what we call a child study report So with all the care order we've obtained from the courts, the police extract, if the child was abandoned, if the child was relinquished, the voluntary relinquishment form that was made at the notary, the voluntary relinquishment confirmation order that we obtained from the High Court will all be added to as part of the report and as evidence of what we are writing, what we call the child study, and sent to the country of the receiving country. Ghana will be the country of origin of the child, and the receiving country, the accredited agency over there, will review and call the applicants, the person who is applying to adopt in Ghana, discuss the circumstances of the child and the possibility of the couple or the individual accepting the child into their home. If everything is okay, then the Hague agreement will be signed by Ghana and that country. So they will bring us the form, that agreement. So when Ghana receive it, then the whole process now will merge the initial pre-adoption assessment report, what we call a home study report, and the child study report, and all the documents attached to that particular case, and sent to the Central Adoption Authority for review. Then we'll receive a ministerial clearance. The Minister of Gender will have to give a clearance that yes, we have followed due process on a particular case. So once we receive the clearance, then your lawyer can file for the final adoption order in court, then serve social welfare. Once social welfare receive the originating summons, we'll go to court, and if the court also accepts the processes that have been followed, we take the order, we are done. At that point, you can now have a birth certificate with your name for that child. You can now work on the child's passport and visa processing and take the child out of the country. Then the country of origin will come back after we've been to court for certification that the whole process was properly done and there was no sidestepping during the process. So Ghana, the Central Adoption Authority, will give that letter quickly, and the embassy of that nation will give you the visa for the child to travel abroad. And if you want the child to be escorted, we also arrange for all that. It is just because people do not want to follow and they make so much noise.
Doc, in reality, because that's the question that keeps popping up. So let's give it say between 6 months and 1 year, between 1 year and 2 years. Is there a time, like a time frame for this?
Sure, there is a time frame. If you are, in US, for instance, they have private adoption agencies. UK has the system just like Ghana, where it is the states. US, if you are able to pay, within 3 months, you should have your home study back in Ghana after you pick the application form. And within 2 weeks, it will be reviewed. If the child is available to be placed, then we can communicate to US. That may take a month or two again for US to respond once we are able to suggest placement. Then they discuss with you. So once we receive the agreement from US that yes, you would like to continue, often US will give you, if it's not a relative child, US will give you the permission to come and see the child because Ghana is ready. You come over there. So the whole process can take about a year or a year and a half because we are dealing with institutions in both countries. Some people do not want to pay for the services, and some do not have the money to pay in other countries. So they will come down, you live in US, then want to do a local adoption. Maybe I should explain this further. Adoption, yes. We have inter-country adoption, in-country adoption, then we have inter-country relative adoption, then inter-country non-relative adoption, and in-country relative adoption, then in-country non-relative adoption. Non-relative meaning you are taking a child from the state. The child is not related to you in any way. But relative, it can be a cousin's child, a grandchild, your brothers, your nephew, niece, up to the 5th level.
Okay. Edith is asking, what is the process to go through when a baby has been abandoned at the hospital at birth?
At birth, most of our hospitals have medical social workers at the hospitals. So when a child is abandoned at the hospital, first thing is to inform the medical social welfare worker or the social welfare officer at the hospital. So this social worker has the responsibility of ensuring that the child is well cared for whilst on admission. At that time, the social worker will also inform the police and take a police extract so that the police can also help with investigation if the mother can be found. If that is not possible, when the child is discharged, the social worker takes over the care of the child and the superiors at the regional office are informed. Then based on the condition of the child, either the child is put up with a foster parent, a foster family, or is sent to a residential facility. Whilst the investigation, the care order, the other things that need to be done are done. It takes about 6 months to clear a child wholly for adoption.
Okay. So
because we don't want a situation where you make a placement for a child, then somebody comes up that, oh, I didn't have money to pay my medical bill, so I went home to look for money, and when I came, they said they have given the child to social welfare, so now we are ready to take the child back home. We don't want such a situation. So even if the child could be placed for adoption, the child will be under foster care until all these issues are dealt with before the child is placed for adoption. And it is the technical committee that does the placement.
Okay.
The central...
one of the...
Hello?
Yes, Doc, we're on. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So one of the questions that keeps coming up is the fact that when you adopt a child, the fear of one day they may want to look for their parents, and then two, somebody telling them that's not your real parent, or the parents now coming forward looks like the child is now in a good position in life. Now they want their child back. That's the fear that people have. Is there something that prospective adopted parents can have to protect themselves from this?
Yes. First of all, I think if you were listening, you realize I kept on saying we want to prevent such happenings. So we make sure the child is cleared before there's placement. One, if somebody adopts a child, even if you are aware of the child's past, you cannot inform the child. It is only the adoptive parent who can inform the child about his or her adoptive history. not you, the friend. So it is an offense under the law. For me, for instance, knowing you, Whitney, and I know you have adopted, then all of a sudden I meet the child. I say, hey, is this the child Whitney adopted some years ago? You can take me to court. you really can take me, and the court, the laws will deal with such a person. You have no right to inform the child. It is only the adoptive parent who can inform the child. And if you abandon your child or relinquish your child to the state and the child is placed for adoption, after we go to court and receive a court order, you have no child.
Wow.
You have no child. Yes. You can go to all the radio stations and blackmail and make noise. If you don't take care, the police will rather arrest you when we report you, because you have no child.
Wow.
And you have no right to meet the child, even if an adoptive parent decides to open up and then the child meets you, then you start giving out information. You know, something happened some time back in my practice. It happened within relative adoption. So often, for clients I work with, when you come and you don't have your biological child and you want to adopt a relative child, I will often give you information. In Ghana here, adoption, some see it as just paperwork for an adoptive child to be taken across borders. That's how some relatives, so you may have a poor sister who has 10, 15 children and none of them is in school. If you are picking and you don't have a child, try and adopt one from the States. Then in Ghanaian terms, we can refer to that child as your child. Then you can help the family by picking a relative's child. Because when you adopt, although you have signed all the legal forms, at the end of the day, when the child is grown and you have a family meeting, your sister or your siblings can sit down and refer to, oh, this is Akosia's child, this is Mensah's child. And this one, it was Mensah's child that Akosia, because she didn't have a child, is taken care of. And deliberately inform the child, and sometimes so a rift between you and the child. There was an issue. A sister who didn't have a child living abroad came down to adopt her sister's child and took the child abroad. When the sister leaves for work and the child is home, then they will call the child on the sister's line and give counter instructions. So the child started misbehaving, and this woman couldn't control the child. One time, this child picked the mother's credit card and bought a ticket and traveled back to Ghana, that she was on holidays. The adoptive mother didn't know the child had come to Ghana and was looking for this child abroad. You know how difficult it is in that system to have a minor who is missing. Then later on, they were able to trace that the child had traveled to Ghana. She had to travel when she had no plans of coming to Ghana. She came down to meet the child. So in her desperation, she decided to seize the child's passport. Could you believe the sister went to the police to report her of seizing the daughter's passport? And they arrested this woman on a Friday evening and kept her in police cells until Monday, when social welfare could be reached to explain the situation. And it was at that time that she came weeping, wanting to now adopt an additional child from the States. And you know, when your own sister tells you, is it not a child you want? I've given you a child. Why do you want to now go and adopt from social welfare? So these are some of the things that when you meet a professional, you discuss thoroughly, you get to know, then you take informed decisions in your choice of adopting a child.
Doc, I'm telling you, not just for me, but for everybody watching, you are opening our eyes to a lot of misconceptions about our system and adoption, because there's so much myth. We're learning that you can actually, I've never heard it anywhere, that if somebody tells an adoptive parent's child that that's not your mother or father, you can report them. This is news. I am not the only one. It's people are knowing these things, because for a lot of time, that's the fear for most people. that if I, even out of the goodness of my heart, I have this calling to adopt a child, one day I may end up being hurt because the prospective parents will come back that they want their child. That is the biggest misconception about adoption. The other thing that one of the questions that somebody also brought in was if people can buy children, if you can pay for a child, is this legal?
It is a crime. It is an offense under our law to buy a child. What sometimes happens is that from social welfare, there's no way you can buy a child. What may happen is that, some of the children, especially abandoned ones, by the time you pick them, because of the exposure, there are a lot of medical bills to be paid. And as a government agency, you can only rely on health insurance. And health insurance doesn't cover all the medications. And at times, if you have to use the government facility and you are not able to pay, there's this top up, you lose the child. So there are times that government funding in every department, is limited. There are times that officers may have to use their own monies or find money just to save a child. So at the end of the day, if you are adopting a particular child and you are told, oh, this has been spent on a particular child with receipts, I don't think it would be a bad thing to support so that other children could be cared for. And then there's this other one. I mentioned relinquishment to you when I was talking. Relinquishment is where, formally, they tie the babies in polythene bags, throw them in the public toilet, leave them around the bushes and all that. Now, we have opened up. You can walk to social welfare if you are pregnant and you don't want the pregnancy. That I am pregnant. And maybe it was something that happened. I don't need the child. I already have children, or it will be a burden. I came to Accra to look for a job, and all of a sudden, maybe to buy kenke, I found myself in one night stand and I'm pregnant. This is problematic. We support, and you realize that there's no government funding for such services as it stands. We are still working towards that. We can get some funding. So there are times you take care of a whole pregnancy, the person deliver a true cesarean operation, and we are human. There's no way after delivery, you just look at this poor woman, walk away for the wounds, if it's a cesarean operation, without helping them to recuperate and feed well just after delivery. And when you put this together, there may be a cost. And in that, I wouldn't see it as selling or buying of a baby. But I know of instances, because I've worked with a lot of clients, where clients come in and when you start working with them, they say, I had a misconception. I didn't know that social welfare could help this way. I was told that if you go to social welfare, it will take forever. So I saw so and so midwife. I went to so and so maternity home. I went to so and so, and they told me to pay so much.
Okay, we seem to be losing Doc. There's internet connection again, but I am beyond amazed at what we are learning today. Beyond amazed. So much misconception about the adoption system. And for me, I am glad we are talking about this thing that has, you've done all the hard work. They are supposedly parents walking announces that they want their baby or they want their child back. And also, especially because of the fact that it seems to be the number one hindering factor for most people who want to adopt, that they still feel like biological parents have power over whatever situations they may be in. So this is very very informative. If you just joined us, Doc is talking about Dr. Anastasia K. Mauduku. She's the head, some long title. You can look on our poster and know her titles, but she's the person discussing. We've been talking about adoption for the past few minutes, or okay, almost 1 hour. We've been talking about adoption, and one of the things we've gotten to know is that we do not have orphanages in this country. It was the first shocker for us that we do not have orphanages in this country. There's so much misinformation about this. Also, it's refreshing to hear that yes, Reverend Ampia, if you go through the right processes, and that is why it is important to know people like her, because for a lot of people, they go through this process and do not go through the right channels and avenues that will link them. And when she comes back on, I want to ask this question, because sometimes even some of the people from their agencies, people have complained. It's one of the emails I got, that sometimes some of this same social welfare people do the conniving with other people, other home care people, and they give these children out, and in the end you find yourself wanting. So how are they even weeding out their own people who are not doing the right thing? The other thing too we've gotten to know is the fact that yes, you can adopt and take the child outside, but it also goes through a process. So at the end of the day, really, it's all about the process. And for me, I feel that, listen, if you want to, you really feel you have the inkling to adopt, this is what is on your heart, this is what you want to do, regardless of what anybody sees, regardless of what people are going to talk anyway. You have a child, they will talk. You don't have a child, they talk. You have a certain gender of children, they talk. You don't have certain gender of children, they talk. But at the end of the day, it is all up to you, whatever you want to do. I mean, this is what you feel deep down in your heart you want to do. You want to give another child a forever home. You want to bond with another child. Honestly, go through the right processes. Go through the right processes. Link, from what she's saying, she said if if things are working well, if things are going on as they should, we should, latest by 3 months, you should have your forever child. And I think the other thing too we need to look at is, she says that they are children. They are no orphans. There are no orphanages in this country, because technically most of these children are not orphans. We find a child walking on the streets, and then the child does not have a place to stay. So apart from a police station, let's put this child in this care. But if you want orphanages, it should have gone through the court processes where they would say that both parents are not alive or they're not around and all that, and that is how come that child is an orphan. But for most of these care homes, the children there are not orphans. That's what we've gotten to know. But back to my issue. If you really want to do this thing, I think one of the things you should have is patience. I've come to realize that, and I am part of them. If you're going through this stage of fertility, infertility period, the last thing you have is patience, because you seem to be on a time mark where this should have happened by this time, that should have happened by this time, we should have done this by this time, we should have done that by this time, and we have checklists for that. So if it's not happening, then we assume that there's something wrong, so we cannot even have the patience for it. But if you truly want to adopt, like she's saying, I think that you should have patience to go through all that process she's listed. Have patience to fill the forms, submit the forms, bring the referees for all this. She's listed the things. I would share her number on the Sisters Keeper page, on my page, both on Facebook and Instagram, so that they have a foundation. It's called the Strong Africa Foundation, where they do this processes. At least I can vouch for this. For Doc, I can vouch for. I've seen MFA on the line. She can vouch for Doc. If you ask my friend MFA, and these are people who can vouch for her. We know the pedigree of her work. Most of the time, it is because people are not following the processes. That is why you would go through the length and breadth to have a child, to have this baby, and then somebody comes out of the blue to take the baby back. But today we've gotten to know that, listen, if you adopt a child, you go through the right processes. You have all your T's and your I's crossed and marked on. No biological parent has access or has a right to that child. That is your child, and that is your child for life. Nobody has a right to tell an adopted child that that is not your parent. She said you can take them on legally. So please, let us be informed about that. It is none of your business if somebody has adopted. It is none of your business if somebody doesn't have a child and decides that this is what they want to do. The most important thing is another child has found a forever home. She's been trying for some time to come on. I think that at this moment we've had enough of the education. If you have any other questions, just inbox me. I will send it to her and post her answers on the platforms so that we read them. But I will post their contact numbers. Let us go through the right avenue when we want something that is for life. That is another life. So if this is what you want to do, let us go through that avenue. Thank you once again for this eye-opening. I think of all the lives we've done, this is the one that has come as a shocker for our regulars, the information that we've gotten. I realized that Janet was adding her bit from the state, from the UK. Janet is in the UK, so she was adding her bit too from there. This is one of the best information that really we've had. Thank you, and hopefully I've realized that most of our viewers also, Salom has a saying that the free Wi-Fi, most of our viewers weekdays, I've got 2 messages that says that for some of us we watch from the office on free Wi-Fi on live. So stick to your weekdays. We had to do Saturday because that was the only time I could get Doc. But even with that, it's been very informative. The video will be on my timeline for you to watch if you tune in late, about all the questions to do with adoption. Thank you so much, and stay safe. Please stay safe. Numbers for COVID is now 9,000 plus. I beg you, we are hitting 10,000. Kindly stay safe. If you're going out, I am locked in my car. That is why I do not have a mask on. But if you're stepping outside, please have your mask on. The sanitizers, the hand washing, the social distancing, please, I beg you. Our numbers are hitting. We are 9,000 plus. Let us learn to be safe out there. Corona is real. Corona is real. It looks like after we ease the restrictions and all that, everything is going back to normal. But please, you are responsible for you. You only have one life. You are responsible for you. So please, let us all learn to be safe out there. I beg you. Thank you all for tuning into this live section. I mean, every week you are on here with me. I do it basically because you all want us to talk about this thing. So next week, hopefully Wednesday, by popular request, we are doing fertility, infertility, and sex, and how to spice things up. I am hopeful by then I will be in a better space of mind so that we do this thing. But thank you all for the message of condolences on the friend we lost this week. Thank you so much. When you say a prayer, please remember his wife and 3 children. His first child is under 6, and the last one is under 1. So please, when you say a prayer, say one for them. Thank you.